Hi, this is Victoria from Get Knitted, and we're going to have a look at how you can knit with 4 colours at one time when you are knitting the Chip Thief pattern. The pattern uses 5 colours, but you will only be using 4 at any one time. You can see here that I have got the dark grey and the cream in my left hand, and the light grey and the green in my right hand. If you keep 2 balls of wool on either side of you, then that will reduce the amount of tangling that you get with the yarn and then the amount of untangling that you will have to do. This style of knitting, when you are using both hands with balls of wool on either side of you, is called continental and western style knitting. The continental style is when you have the balls of wool on your left hand side and you're using your left hand to pick the stitches, and the western style or British style is when you are using the balls on the right hand and you are throwing the yarn around the needles. You will see that I am also looping the floating yarns behind my work as I go along. I recommend looping in the floats every 3 to 4 stitches maximum so that you aren't pulling those floating yarns too tight. If you're at all concerned about pulling the floating yarns too tight, just make sure every few stitches that your stitches are well spaced out on the needles. You can also check behind your work to make sure that those floating yarns are lying nice and flat along the back of your work. If they are taut or your work is bunching together, then you know that those floating yarns are being pulled too tightly. You will notice that sometimes I am carrying 1 yarn as the float and sometimes 2 yarns as the float. I wouldn't recommend using more than 2 yarns in the float because that just makes your work really bulky. The pattern is written in fairisle, and I recommend that you do use the fairisle technique rather than intarsia for the charted sections. This will reduce the amount of pull that you get on those floating yarns and reduce the number of ends that you need to weave in, which means that your hat won't be too bulky. The only section that is written in intarsia is the actual chip itself.